evening, everyone, and welcome to our conversation in honor of the 16 Days of Activism campaign. I am Dr. Shamila Ramjawan, an academic, founder of the Princess D Menstrual Cup, the Red Corner Show, Famram Foundation, and Olympus International Awards South Africa. I'm also the lead author of Watering the Seed, Stories of Personal Growth, the world's first anthology series that features men, women, and youth from across the globe. Today we gather not only to speak about gender-based violence, as we know it's GBV, but to strengthen one another with knowledge, compassion, and a shared commitment to change. Thank you for joining us today. Your presence shows the power of community. This session will be gentle, respectful, and focused on learning. We will not discuss graphic detail at all. Instead, we will speak about experiences, healing, prevention, and the steps we all can take to create safer spaces. I want to emphasize it is not deliberate to have all women on the panel today. The call to action posted on my social media platforms was taken up by women only, and we need to ask ourselves why. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. Allow me to introduce our incredible panel today. Dr. Rosa van Niekerk, from Rosa van Niekerk Attorneys vs. Africa Classic 2023. Dr. Rosa is a survivor of GBV and wants to share her story. Patricia Duval, who's the founder of PD Feeding Scheme, who is also an author, also a survivor of GBV and wants to share her story as well. Verona Reddy, People and Culture Executive, co-founder of Berri, a mental health and inclusion advocate. And we have Ishara Singh, who is recovering from the flu at the moment, but she's taken the time to share a lot of little pieces that we can take away today. She's a student mentor, African Unity Movement member. We're going to move along with Dr. Rosa van Niekerk. Dr. Rosa van Niekerk, thank you so much for joining us today. Dr. Rosa van Niekerk brings both personal experience and legal expertise to this space. Dr. Rosa, we are honored to have you with us today, but before we start, I want to thank you for your willingness to share your journey as part of this important discussion. I would like to begin by giving you the space to tell your story in your own words and at your own pace. You may share whatever feels right for you. Welcome, Dr. Rosa van Niekerk.
Good afternoon, Shamila, and good afternoon, audience. Good afternoon to all the beautiful ladies on the panel. I'm absolutely humbled and blessed to be part of this panel this afternoon, especially with regards to sharing of my story, my personal journey with gender-based violence. So I'm going to start off by saying that I grew up in a very conservative home in Uppington. And then I went on to study in Bloemfontein, where I studied law. During that time, I was engaged to a man for 2 years. And during that period, I was in a gender-based violence situation and relationship with him. This man has now since passed, and this is the reason why I feel that I can open up with regards to my story, what happened. But coming from a very conservative community, coming from a very conservative house, being in a gender-based violence relationship is not something that you speak about to your friends, your parents, your co-workers, the people that I studied with. That was now years ago. So it was something that was very hush-hush. Nobody ever spoke about such a situation. Now, with our situation at that time, it was physical abuse, it was mental abuse, and it was emotional abuse. And I remember the shame that I carried with me while I was going through this situation. And I also remember how I kept what I was going through from everybody, even my own parents. They only found out later, years and years and years later, they found out. But what I also do remember that was very positive is the women that I had in my life. They gave me at that stage, they gave me the courage to stand up and to acknowledge what was happening, acknowledge that it was wrong, acknowledge that I do not deserve, or nor do any woman or man deserve to be in such a situation, and to actually have the courage to leave the relationship. When you are, it doesn't matter if you're a young woman and an older woman. That is a type of relationship that breaks down your self-worth. It breaks down what you think of yourself, how you see yourself, how you see the world, how you see relationships with men. And it has a huge, not just a physical impact, but I think the emotional impact. It stayed with me years and years later on. Um, until how did I resolve it? I went to see a psychologist at that stage and also a trauma counselor. And that was the way that I could, take away what happened and made peace with it. But why I want to share my story is to tell every woman out there that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. Gender-based violence can happen to anybody in any circumstances, whether you're a young woman that's inexperienced, whether you were married or not married, you're an older woman, it doesn't matter. But what matters is how you overcome it. How do you overcome it? That is the question that I get asked so many times from ladies. Because today I use my story to go to schools to speak with ladies and say, listen, this is what I went through. This is how you can overcome it. You overcome it by the support of your sisters, the support of your friends, by prayer. Prayer is extremely important. And then also with being gentle with yourself and realizing that you didn't ask for this. This is something that happened in your life journey. It didn't happen to you, it happened on your life journey path. So it's something that can be overcome. And I just want to encourage any woman out there that has been through a similar situation. Shamila, you know me, I always say you get up, you pray up, you crown up, and you rise up. And through God's grace, you can really overcome any situation. So that is my story. Thank you for having me.
Wow, thank you, Rosa. Thank you for sharing. You're going to inspire so many people today. What inspired you to reach a point where you felt ready to share your story publicly?
But the situation that inspired me was I look at my daughters and I look at the young women that I speak to at schools. And when you can tell your story, they relate to you. And it's very important that us as women must be relatable and share our stories so that another woman can feel, okay, if she can do it, if she can overcome it, if she can make it, I can make it too. And that is if I can leave something with somebody today. It's just if I could overcome it, you can too. I will pray for you and you will be okay.
Thank you so much. Yes, prayer does help. And thank you for that perspective. Looking back, what form of support or intervention made the greatest difference in helping you reclaim your strength?
To be quite honest, my best friend at that stage was Minette Meyeren in Bloemfontein while we were studying. And she said to me, she saw what was happening and I didn't want to recognize it at that stage. But her support and her telling me, listen, that either you have to do something about this or I will let your parents know that this is what is happening. Her support and the support, of everybody surrounding me when they found out actually what was happening. Because there was a lot of physical abuse. And I remember it went on through my clerkship. And I used to wear high polo neck collars and stuff. And one of the ladies, I didn't have a car at that stage, that I drove with to do my articles from home to the office. She just turned to me one day and she said to me, you know what, Rosa, I think I know what's going on, and if you ever want to talk, I'm here. And then I just bursted out in tears because you never know. You think you hide it so well from other people. And her support, my best friend's support at that stage, just that encouragement. And what changed it for me was when I saw the psychologist, and she said to me, and it's so ironic, she said to me, Rosa, that was now that year, the Miss Universe of that year, she made a divorce from her husband because he cheated on her, and there was also physical abuse. And she said to me, if it could happen to her, it can happen to you. So it's a him problem, it's not a you problem. Because when you are in that frame of mind, you are thinking to yourself, what did I do? You know, could I have done something different? Could I be better? Because they make you believe that it's your fault. They make you believe that you are the problem. You were looking for this. And I think that was my inspiration. It clicked there for me to realize that it was a him problem. It wasn't a me problem. And if she could overcome it, I could overcome it as well. And the support of females, really. My best friend, the people that I worked with, it was just amazing. And that is what I'm trying to do by sharing my story. Maybe it can touch somebody and they can know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel humiliated, but it's also okay to share your story so that other people and other ladies or men can know that this is something that happens and this is something that we must take care of as a society. It's not just a one-person problem.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, just going back to your story, at least you had that support structure. And I think a lot of women and men, they feel that they do not have that support structure because they do not talk about it. So it's so important to talk about it to someone that you really trust. Thank you for sharing that. So just going back to your professional background in law, now, talking about how this influenced your understanding of the obstacles other survivors face. What can you tell us about that?
I think, firstly, and I say this with a lot of respect, I think that some of our police force members are not really encouraged to support women when they come and they give the call and say, I am in a domestic violence relationship, I have been abused, I have been assaulted, whatever. So as somebody that was in that situation, you are ashamed. It's not a nice call to make. It's something that you put off. So if there was a perfect world, it would be very nice for the people that are in positions where the ladies call in or they go out to the houses or even at court to, handle the ladies or the men sympathetically and have that heart and understanding to know, I must even say the emotional intelligence. And I say that respectfully, to know that this is a lady that you must handle with care. And not just because some of my clients, they come to me and they say, but I have phoned the police, I did lay a charge, I did do this, or I was at court and I did bring an application on my own, but I was not treated in a good way. I felt disrespected, I felt not seen. So I think if that could be changed, I think that's a current obstacle for the people because the law is there. The law is very clear on what you can do with regards to domestic violence, how you can bring an application, how everything works. Everybody knows it by now. But what can be done better is to have a softer, more gentler approach to somebody that is calling in or laying a charge and not just in some instances dismiss the women and say, but you're talking nonsense, or it's not such a big deal, or you're just making up a story, or, just handle somebody as if they are just a number, that type of thing.
In a nutshell, can you tell us what are the steps that survivors or victims can actually experience with the justice system?
Okay, what you can do, the first thing, if you are in a gender-based violence relationship, you can approach your clerk of the magistrate's court for harassment or for gender-based violence, depending on these gender-based violence applications, and there's also harassment applications. But it will most probably be a gender-based violence, a GBV application. So how it physically works, if you can either, if you're in a situation at home where you are being abused or assaulted, you can call in the police. The police now must come out to your house, and then they have to arrest the person that is abusing you. The law has changed. They have to arrest that person. Then you go and lay a charge of assault at your local police station. So then there will be two cases opened. The one will be an assault case. Now you get assault GBH, that's assault with grievous bodily harm, or you get assault common. The difference between the two is if somebody is assaulted to the extent that they're in hospital, it's assault GBH. If you are just assaulted and there's some bruises but you're not in hospital, then it's common assault. So that's a criminal case that will be opened by yourself at the police station. And then to apply for a domestic violence interdict, that's what we call the GBV application. You go to the clerk of your local magistrate's court, and they will give you a document to fill in. In that document, you will give your statement to say what happened, and then you will request for an interim protection order. In that interim protection order, you will ask that the person not physically abuse you, mentally abuse you, emotionally abuse you, not request the help of a third party to abuse you, not financially abuse you, not abuse your children if there's children involved. There's also, and this is a very important part in the application, a lot of people do not know about this part. There is a part where you can apply for financial assistance. If the person that has assaulted you are your husband and he is the main breadwinner, which happens in a lot of situations, then you can ask for financial assistance. That will include like paying off the bond, groceries, maintenance, whatever you need, and then an interim order will be granted by the court. I always tell the people that mostly the ladies, I tell them make a copy of that order, one for your handbag, one for your car, one for your house, one for your office. So then that application, the domestic violence application, will then be served by the police on the person that's called the respondent. That will be, in this case scenario now, let's say the husband. Then there's a return date that the person that assaulted you for this, just for what we are doing right now, say it's the husband, he will then return on that date with or without a lawyer. He has the right to an attorney, and he will then state his case. The court will hear the woman, the applicant's story, the respondent demand story, and then they will decide if they are going to grant this domestic violence interdict. If it's granted, then it will be final, and the order that you have asked for in the application when you applied for, it will be made a final order. Then that person can only come with the police. They can literally take their clothes, like 1 or 2 pieces of clothing, and then they must leave your house. That can also be done during the interim order. If you ask that the person must not come into your residence, then he can come, collect just his personal belongings, and he must not come near you until the end of the matter, until the court have decided if they're going to make the interim order final or not. And I want to emphasize this, I say this to the ladies, please, please. I understand that it is a difficult situation, but the law is on your side. but it depends on each individual if they're going to apply the law to their situation. So you have, let's call it a weapon that you can use if you are in a situation like that. So please use that. Please call the police force if you are being assaulted, and go the next day to the doctor or whoever so that they can fill in that report to say where you have been assaulted. Take photos. All of this is going to help not just in the criminal case for assault, but it's also going to help to prove your case with the domestic violence application.
Thank you so much for that. That's so helpful, Rosa, and I'm sure a lot of people took a lot from that. And there is going to be a recording that we can share as well. So tell me, do you handle these type of cases?
Yes, I absolutely do. And that is why when you gave the call to come forward, I wanted to come forward and share my story so that it, not just from a legal perspective, people can know, but they can know that there is somebody that went through it, survived it, overcame it, and it has become the fuel for me to assist in gender-based violence cases, to assist with domestic violence applications. Because I once was that woman. I can identify with her. And I love it. I know it sounds difficult to say that I love doing these kinds of cases, but what I love about these cases is having this lady that was so down and out, see how she gets protection, how she gets maintenance, how she becomes, her beautiful self again. And after the case and everything is finalized, she blossoms and she just begins a new, beautiful life. And I live for that. I absolutely do.
Thank you so much. What message of encouragement would you offer to someone who feels hesitant or fearful about seeking help?
I would really, from the bottom of my heart, ask this. Please do not stay silent. Please speak, because when you speak, you do not only help yourself, you help another woman in the same situation. Do not stay silent. Our silence is our greatest problem at this stage. But luckily, as women, we have risen up and we have found our voice. So each one of us, God made us with a purpose. Use your voice, because through that voice, you will find your purpose and you will bless another woman, and you will then survive and thrive.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. We will get back to you later on in the chat. I'm going to move on to Patricia. Patricia, thank you for being with us tonight. Your journey, your resilience, and your ongoing work in community upliftment continue to inspire many people. We are grateful that you're willing to share your voice in this space. So can you please start by telling us a little about your story, and whatever you feel comfortable with, share as much as you can or as little as you wish.
Thank you, Dr. Shamila, for having me on your show today. Thank you, ladies. I just want to take this opportunity to share the space and speak about something that affects so many lives, which is gender-based violence. And as a survivor of 2 marriages, abused marriages, this isn't just a topic that I've studied or observed. It's a reality that I lived through it, right? And one that has shaped me, challenged me, and ultimately pushed me towards a journey of healing and advocacy, right? It also helped me to also bring awareness to people out there that are facing the same situation. And also it helped me to understand and encourage anyone who may be listening, whether you are a survivor, a supporter, or you just someone wanting to learn about gender-based violence. Can be painful to talk about because you have to reopen those wounds that you have experienced, and it's not something that you just want the whole world to hear about it, but having these kind of talks, it actually helps you to heal, because healing doesn't take place overnight. It's a process, you know. Yes. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure during the chat, you're going to share a little more. So what sort of early signs of an unhealthy relationship do you wish more people recognize?
When you notice, okay, I got married at a very young age. So I was a very naive girl. I felt pregnant at 16, got married at 18. So I was still not mature enough, because I had a baby, and I also had to learn how to be a mom, how to be a wife. So to me, I didn't pick up the early signs. I only saw them later on in the marriage, you know, when the damage was already done. So basically, you look out for, you know, fear, isolation, because you get isolated from family and friends. And yeah.
So just being young and vulnerable, right?
Yes. Very young. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for sharing. So what myths about abusive relationships do you believe cause the greatest harm?
Well, you know, they say, oh, you know, physical abuse, a person has to be strong, but it's actually not, you know. Physical abuse can take in any form of shape. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotionally. It can be mentally. So, yes.
Okay, now we know a lot of people, I'm going to say men and women, stay in these abusive relationships. Do you know why? And what are the misconceptions around this?
People are afraid to actually come and speak about, you know, their story, their problem they are facing. So they just feel that, you know, they rather not say anything about it and just be silent about the situation.
So just remain silent and stay in the abusive relationship?
Yes, because, you know, sometimes it's not easy to just walk away, because people will say, but why did you stay in the marriage knowing very well you are abused? It's easy for the outside to see that picture, but being in that marriage is a different scenario altogether, because you're there because it could be financially you're not stable to move out of that abuse marriage. Secondly, out of fear of retaliation. And also, you can be threatened, and, you know, so there's a lot of things that makes a person stay and not move until you realize that enough is enough, you know, you cannot take it anymore and just leave the marriage.
Yes. And I think it's also got a lot to do with independence. I think especially when the woman or the partner is dependent on the other, it's a bit difficult to actually get out, right? What types of support systems have the greatest impact on survivors, do you think?
Okay, you counseling, you have to talk to someone that's non-judgmental. And also, if you can, counseling is very important, because if you don't have counseling, this trauma will carry you. If you're in another relationship or another marriage and you're not healed from your first trauma, eventually it's not going to work out. And I think that's where I have faulted, because I did not have counseling after my first marriage. And that is why I failed my second marriage, because of for that reason. And going into the second marriage, even with the counseling, it still did not help. So unfortunately, it was too late, and I decided that I cannot be abused again, and I'd rather just walk out and just heal Patricia and get to know who Patricia is so she can move forward.
Did you find Patricia?
Yes, I have, but she's still finding herself. It's no walk in the park, Dr. Shamila, because, you know, you look at people and you think they're all the same. And I don't think I've actually put up a wall So nobody can come into my space. It's very difficult for me at this point in time. Yes, I have found Patricia, and Patricia needs to get to know herself first and foremost.
We wish you all the best in your healing journey, Patricia. Thank you so much for sharing. What message would you want to give to someone who feels trapped or uncertain about where to turn?
Okay, thank you for that. As Rosa said earlier on, that don't be silent, talk about it. If you don't want to, involve family, rather seek help outside. There's a lot of community-based support groups and faith support groups. So it's easier to share with somebody that you don't know than to speak to a family member.
I think it just depends on the individual. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, Patricia. We really appreciate that.
You're welcome, Dr. Shamila. Thank you.
Okay, please stay on. We will get back to you later on in the chat. We're going to move on to Verona. Verona, thank you so much for joining us. You bring a valuable perspective on mental health and workplace culture. Is there anything you would like to share about this conversation and how it matters to you personally or professionally?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you everyone for joining. I think for me, this conversation matters because work is one of the places where people spend most of their waking lives, yet it's often felt that they need to hide a large part of their personal story. And I think having both worked in psychology-related spaces and in HR, I've seen how deeply workplace environments affect a person's confidence and psychological safety.
How does workplace culture influence the well-being of individuals who may be affected by GBV?
So for me, workplace culture is not just posters on a wall, it's the behavior people experience every day, whether it's from their colleagues or leadership. And I think when you have a workplace that is supportive, when you have a culture that is predictable and respectful, it becomes stabilizing for someone that's dealing with GBV. So it gives them a place where they feel safe. But if a culture is built on fear and judgment, or power imbalances, it can actually re-trigger certain dynamics that people are experiencing.
Thank you so much. So what signs of emotional strain might leaders often overlook, and how can they become more aware of it?
So a lot of distress doesn't really show up as outbursts or tears. It's often behavior that looks normal. But if you take notice of it, or if you pay attention to it, then you'll be able to see the differences. So, you look at reclusive people that suddenly become very cheerful or jovial, and it's very much out of character. Or you see people that just say that they're okay, but you never really know more about their personal life, or they don't share much about themselves. You notice high performers who start making really small mistakes which are out of the norm. Or you see people becoming very withdrawn, very reclusive, but they're not doing it with the dramatics. They're just isolating themselves. So, you see people working really long hours, trying to avoid going home. So it's little things like that if you pay enough attention, you'll be able to see it. As I said before, it doesn't disrupt the workflow or productivity, but if you are a leader that is observant, you'll be able to notice it.
Just say if I'm the leader that notices this, is it easy to approach the employee?
It depends on the depth of relationship you have with your staff, and that's why building a strong relationship is so important. Because when you have that rapport with your staff or with your team, they trust the reasons that you're going and approaching them about certain behaviors that you're noticing. But if you don't have that rapport, if you don't have that relationship, then people can see it as being targeted.
Okay. So the bottom line is to build those relationships with the staff, right?
Yes, that's fundamentally the difference that's going to be seen.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What are the practical steps that companies can take to build truly inclusive and supportive cultures for those dealing with trauma?
I think teaching or training your management to have emotional intelligence is very, very important. If your leadership does not have emotional intelligence, then you are not going to be able to have those genuine connections with your team. So if you have that high level of emotional intelligence within your top management, your middle management, you're able to train leaders to understand trauma responses from their teams or trigger responses from their teams. You can create flexible work options for employees that are going through tough periods, but obviously that comes with having those open and transparent conversations, giving them access to real support. So it's very, very important that companies start partnering with your affiliations like your tiers foundations that focus on gender-based violence and sexual trauma, whatever it is, that can assist people when you are not able as a company to assist your staff. So have affiliations with these external parties that can assist or can come into your organization and assist your people. Provide a firm stance on gender-based violence and harassment within the workplace. So when you take your beliefs on gender-based violence, on harassment, I mean, we have it in our code of conduct, and you implement that within your workplace, your staff is able to see that as management, as leadership, this is something that you take very seriously. And if you start having proactive conversations, so you start normalizing conversations about well-being, about how people should be treated, about boundaries within your everyday team spaces, you're creating an environment that encourages these open and honest discussions.
Thank you for helping us understand that better, Verona. So what is one change you believe every workplace should implement immediately to improve support for vulnerable individuals?
There's so many things, but if I had to choose one thing, I would say normalizing regular well-being check-ins. So whether it's just short, simple conversations that really find out how people are doing, how their teams are doing, it kind of signals that emotional well-being. It signals emotional intelligence from your leadership, and it creates a psychologically safe environment where people don't feel like they're targeted. The moment people feel seen and heard outside just productivity or performance, it becomes easier for them to trust you.
Thank you, Verona. We will get back to you later on in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing that. Great perspectives there. We now welcome Ishara. Ishara, thank you for your presence and for the work you do with young people. Would you like to share a short reflection on why supporting the youth in this space is so important?
Good afternoon, Dr. Shamila. Good afternoon to the panelists and to the viewers. I'm truly honored to be on the show tonight. Despite my flu, I said, no, this is absolutely important as GBV needs to be reflected every day in our lives. A reflection, helping youth in gender-based violence is vital because they're the future leaders, change makers, influencers. If we don't support them, the cycle of violence continues. We need to empower them with education, resources, and a safe space to speak out. It's about breaking the silence, creating a culture of respect, empathy, and equality. We need to respect and uplift the youth so they can thrive and become agents of change we need. The support truly comes from us. But at times, it's not just support from adults to youth. At times, youth can also support adults.
Thank you so much for that. Now, I've known you for many years and you've worked with students for many, many years. What patterns or concerns regarding GBV do you observe most frequently among students and young people?
Oh, my favorite one was when somebody is isolated. There's a lot, but some major ones include they are getting addicted to their phones. We've all been there, right? Some of us are still there. Procrastination, especially putting down their assignments for the last minute. Allowing something else that's not important in their lives, like a relationship, abusive relationship. They'll procrastinate. I'll do my assignment tomorrow. I'll do it whenever. Social media comparison, sleep deprivation, students surviving on coffee and energy drinks. Group study sessions could be productive or just a chance to chat. Those are the major things that I notice. But as soon as we notice that somebody isolate themselves, you just have a brief conversation with them. Are you okay? Do you need to talk? And the most important thing that I always did was let them know my door is open. And a lot of them used to come to the office, start speaking in riddles until I got to the point, until they open up. And there were serious cases. So I normally listen to them until they open up and make sure that I make appointment to the right people so they can get counseling, and from there they survive.
Thank you so much for sharing that. How can educational institutions create safe spaces where young people feel heard and supported?
Well, this is super important for their well-being, and academic successes. Institutions can establish dedicated spaces for students to share their concerns, like counseling services or student advocacy offices. Train staff and faculty to listen actively and respond empathetically. Foster a culture of inclusivity and respect, promoting diversity and addressing microaggressions. And personally, I feel, I don't know, but I think most of the institutions do not have a solid policy on GBV. And being a staff member and you want to interact or you want to assist and you don't have grounds to stand on, it makes it so difficult for you to say, pinpoint out rules. Sometimes you say something, but the perpetrators will always say, who are you to say A, B, and C? Because we don't have a policy. We also need to create anonymous reporting mechanisms for incidents or concerns, support student-led initiatives and organizations that promote mental health and wellness.
Mental health and wellness, that is so important in our everyday lives. But with the policy implementation, I think that is key, especially for the educational institutions. With the hype around GBV, I'm sure there's a lot of work in progress at the moment. What do you think are some of relationship skills or boundaries young people should learn early in life?
Building healthy relationships is like building a solid foundation for a house. It's difficult to tell a student that. It's difficult to tell a young, restless mind that you need to start building a solid foundation. They think that it's just the parents that need to do that. But I must add that if parents don't have a solid foundation or a family don't have a solid foundation, it definitely goes down to the children. And I must say I'm one of the lucky ones that have a family that are solid, that stand by each other, my entire family and my circle of family, my kids, my husband. So we have that support structure in place, to support each other. So it starts there. They should start within parents, simple understanding. It's got to be strong to withstand the storms. Communication is key. Learn to express yourself clearly and listen actively. My favorite boundaries. If your boundaries are not in place, need to know yours and you need to respect others. Empathy is everything. Put yourself in other people's shoes. Conflict resolution is a must. Learn to disagree and resolve stuff in a healthy way.
Thank you so much for that. Ishara, what message would you give to a young person? Now, you've worked with young people, like I said earlier, for many, many years. A young person who feels unheard, scared, and unsure about how to seek help.
Yeah, my experience brings back memories. The first thing is creating a safe space for them. Just be there. Listen actively and validate their feelings. You need to understand, you need to make them feel that they are being heard. And that's how you build the trust, you know. Let them know you're there to support them, no judgment, and help them feel heard. Sometimes people just need someone to vent to. Sometimes people just need, to open up to the person that they trust. If they open and serious, gently suggest they speak to a professional, like therapist or counselor, offer to help them find resources or even make appointments for them. If they need it, it's obvious, and you need to be very, very confidential.
Thank you so much. Thank you to each of our panelists for sharing your experiences, insights, and strategies with such courage and clarity. This was such an informative discussion. As we close this important chapter of the 16 Days of Activism, let us take a moment to reflect on the steps we can all take to create safer communities. I would now like to invite you to share your thoughts. Maybe start with Verona. What does a safer community look like in your view?
I think a safer community looks like a community that is like-minded. We all understand the importance of emotional and physical safety, and we understand that this is not something to be taken lightly. When you see people are in need of help from an emotional or physical perspective, it doesn't cost you anything to put up your hand and try and assist. And I think if we have that mindset, we're able to make our community safer and richer.
Thank you, Verona. Rosa, what immediate change can we all contribute to?
The immediate change that we all can contribute to is being supportive of somebody if they tell you that they are in a gender-based violence relationship. Tell them that they are loved, appreciated, tell them the necessary legal steps that they can do, and then hold their hand, hold their heart, be there for them during this process, and just support one another. Support helps you to grow and to have the courage to take the necessary steps, and also to fulfill everything that you are doing.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Thank you for that. Ishara, from your experience, what forms of early intervention make the biggest difference?
Well, I'll say we should focus on empowerment. The moment you realize that someone is struggling with GBV, we should focus on empowerment and let them know that their worth isn't defined by someone else's actions. Let them know they are strong, capable, and deserving of love and respect. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. If you're going through a tough time, know that you're not alone. Reach out, speak up, and remember, your voice matters. And with this, taking this along, you will understand that you can overcome GBV at an early stage.
Thank you, Ishara. Patricia, what message of strength or reassurance would you like to leave with our audience?
Dr. Shamila, I would like to say that we need to teach our young men how to respect ladies, women, girls especially. So when they grow up, they know that they are, doing the right thing.
In closing, can we do a quick round to wrap up? Ishara, you can go first.
I just want to say it's not just about teaching our young men. It's about teaching both genders. Because in today's life, what we experience at the institutions as well, female think they are the best. So we need to work on both gender, and we need to teach the female to respect the man, like any household. Woman respect your husband, husband respect your wife. Mm-hmm. It comes both ways. And respect is key of gender-based violence. And I think that's my view.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Again, Verona, can we get your last message?
I think within the workspace, leaders, colleagues, and human beings, we can't really change what people are facing at home or in their personal lives, but we can change what they experience at work. And sometimes that difference is exactly what helps a person hold on to courage and hold on to the feeling of security, and creating that space through conversations and psychological well-being is of utmost importance.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Verona. Rosa, can we have your last words, please?
My last words to anybody going through a situation like that is just remember that you are not alone. And just remember that you can overcome this and that you will be fine. And that if you speak, you will find the support that you need. And there's a community of women and men out there that really wants to help and wants to reach out.
Thank you, Dr. Rosa. And we come to the end of this amazing chat. I want to thank you all for sharing your journeys and insights in this important topic on GBV. On this final day of the 16 Days of Activism, we stand together to recognize and uplift survivors, challenge injustice, and commit to meaningful change. Thank you again to each of you for your courage, clarity, and compassion. And thank you to everyone joining us for listening with intention and open heart. Let us carry the spirit of these 16 days forward, not just in words, but in action. Let us create communities where safety, respect, and dignity are not negotiable, where every voice is heard and every person feels valued. Today marks an end, but it also marks a beginning. Stand together, act together, and support one another beyond today. Every small step, each conversation, and each act of care builds a safer world for all. Thank you again.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, and I wish you all the best for the remainder of 2025 as we head into 2026 and a prosperous new year.
Thank you, ladies.
Same to you.
Likewise
Thank
to
you.
everybody.